Glutes are the biggest muscle in the body. The hip flexors are not. So you want the biggest muscle in your body to be stabilizing kind of the biggest joint complex that you have in your body as well. So today I just want to quickly go over, I think one of the maybe more misunderstood purposes of single leg movements. So we do a lot of single leg stuff in here. Today we were doing single leg pal-off holds. So from here we're standing on one leg out at the center line, pressing the arms out to extension, just holding that position. And my cue is always the opposite leg, the knees driven up as high as you can. And I probably never explained that adequately or at all, why we drive up that opposite leg. So a lot of times when we're doing anything on a single leg, we're just looking for a contralateral movement and kind of working on the balance and the proprioception throughout the body to stay on that single leg. And one of the things that probably gets overlooked too much, and again, it's on me for not explaining it, is why we drive up the opposite knee as high as we can. So this is very different than having the leg back here in a single leg position. The reason for that is when you drive this leg up high enough, you force the opposite glute to engage. So if in this position you can't get this glute to fire, that's probably a whole separate conversation, but it's also kind of a good diagnostic tool for you. So from this single leg position, really what are we working on? It's a lot of core stability, and your glutes are definitely included in your kind of core network of muscles. So the reason you want this outside or the off knee up as high as you can, that's gonna force this glute to turn on. So anytime you're standing, one leg especially, you want the glute to be the primary stabilizer of the hips. You don't want it to be the hip flexor. So if you're not getting the glute to fire and you're not getting that glute engaged, you're asking your hip flexors to stabilize you. Glutes are the biggest muscle in the body. The hip flexors are not. So you want the biggest muscle in your body to be stabilizing kind of the biggest joint complex that you have in your body as well. As I may or may not have mentioned before, the glutes tend to be a lazy muscle, so you really need to be conscious of them when you're trying to get them to work. Hip flexors, they're very happy to work. They're kind of overactive muscles. So when you're standing on a single leg, drive that opposite knee up. That'll force your glute to engage and turn on, trying to keep those hips neutral the whole time and sort of stabilize the entire upper body, because you need that neutral hip position to make sure everything in the upper body, whatever you're going to be doing, presses, anything out to the side, you need to have a stable system. And that's going to start with the hips, and then they need to be stabilized as well. You're going to be in a much more stable position if you're getting those glutes to fire and keeping those hips neutral instead of asking the hip flexors to do the job of the glutes. So again, anytime you're in a single leg position, you want that opposite knee up as high as you can, forcing the glute of the leg that you're standing on to fire and work. That way you're going to get the hip flexor to turn off, and you're actually working in a more stable position using the muscles that should be stabilizing the hips.